Welcome to the Wellnest Mamas podcast. We are committed to leading a sustainable lifestyle and making community connections. In a world where stress and chaos seem to be the norm, finding balance and fostering a sense of true well-being is essential.
Whether you are just beginning your holistic wellness journey or are already deeply dedicated to the practice, this podcast is for you. Join the Wellnest Mamas as we uncover the secrets to holistic wellness and discover the power of building a healthy community that supports and uplifts one another.
Sit back, relax, and get ready to embark on a transformative journey to leading a sustainably healthy lifestyle. We're glad you're here.
Hey everybody, we're back. This is the Wellnest Mamas podcast. I'm Steph.
I'm Caitlin, and today we're joined with Michelle Meiklejohn.
Hi.
So Michelle, when you found us, we met through the functional medicine group.
Yes.
And I loved that you mentioned that you are in preventative medicine. And Can you tell me more about what that means to you?
Well, that's a big question, but I'll try to keep it smaller for this option. So I teach Pilates, and it's often just thought of as fitness, which I think fitness in general can be targeted toward prevention and feeling better. But what I see as preventative medicine is things that keep you from needing more intervention beyond what you can do for your own body, what your body can do for itself. And so when you move through Pilates, through functional movement, you have the opportunity to build that resiliency and train your body to do the best it can do before you have the lovely options of traditional medicine that we have. But I'd like to do everything I can do before we head that direction. So in my space, and that would be preventing or delaying surgeries, joint replacements, anything more invasive than what we can do at a gym or at our studio.
That's amazing. Cool. So how did you get into Pilates? Where did it all start?
Well, like many of us, my route wasn't, I'm going to be a Pilates teacher and own a studio when I was 6 years old. Some people have that planned out and it works out. But I am not one of them. And I was actually on the road to infectious disease physician. For many reasons. I grew up in a medical family. Both my parents were physicians, and so that was my aptitude. Science is my aptitude, and went that way. Had my first pregnancy, decided that being in medicine and a parent wasn't for me. I didn't have the fire that getting through medical school requires. So I decided preventative medicine was the route I wanted to go. I didn't think it was Pilates. I didn't know that at the time, but I've always been a competitive athlete. And after my first pregnancy, had an emergency C-section, whatnot. I could no longer compete with my horse. I ride horses competitively, and that was a humbling experience, having always had a strong body to rely on, and then all of a sudden, through all of the things that carrying a child and birthing a human, shocker, does to our bodies, I was no longer the athlete I had been. Which I came to grips with that, but through Pilates I was able to regain an even better version, in my opinion, than I had before. More education, humbled again, which is always a good thing. And so I have been practicing as a practitioner in Pilates for 17 years. And I started training when I went back to school for a health and exercise graduate degree. So 11 years ago. So I've been an instructor for Pilates 11 years now. That's the shortened version, believe it or not.
You did great.
Yeah. Are you from Arkansas or this
No, I'm
area?
actually originally from Kansas City.
Okay.
And then I moved to Tulsa and then Oklahoma City to follow my professional student path originally. And then we moved here 7 years ago, and the studio's been open now for 6 years. So that's kind of the timeline.
So did you have the studio in mind when you moved here? Or
Yes.
Was this your first studio?
It is my first studio.
Okay.
So I had finished my degree at the University of Oklahoma, which is where I did my graduate the most recent one. And I had taught as a grad student Pilates classes, some of the football players, some of the dancers, so a variety of bodies. They were all in their young 20s, and I just had a second baby. And Pilates had me doing things that their bodies couldn't do, which was an ego boost. Listen to me talk about ego and humbling, but it helped me realize that it does have the power to give even the most trained body an advantage, therefore also the least used or least trained body an advantage. So a lot of enlightening experiences doing that work. And I knew at that point in my life I wouldn't probably be a great employee because we all have to face the realities of ourselves. And my parents had owned their clinics and been entrepreneurs as best as doctors are not notoriously great business people, but they learned along the way. And I got to watch that. So I felt like I could do it. I had a rude awakening about what owning a business is all about. But
we all do.
I think as most entrepreneurs, we know our product, but the how to make that all work is the thing. So yes, the studio was under a different name, and there were some challenges with it, but it had been a Pilates studio prior to me moving to Northwest Arkansas. And I purchased the equipment, and that again was 6 years ago in June. So, yeah.
So, with Pilates, is there kind of a specific demographic or like area that you specialize in, or is it just really a whole body experience? If someone was coming to your studio for the first time, what could they kind of like expect to be introduced to?
Yeah, and that's a great question because really recently Pilates has become a trend. I kind of liken it to the French bulldog. It's really popular, and especially with the growth in Northwest Arkansas, those that are business minded are looking at how to get into that space to make a profit. And with Pilates it requires a great deal of training. All of my instructors, including myself, have 500 hours of training, which takes, if you do it really diligently, it could take 1.5 years. If you're trying to incorporate it into your life, it's more like a 2-year process and requires continuing education to stay up on the latest research because it is a movement and a science. And then the equipment itself is quite an investment. So that's the biggest barrier, is that in order to provide the service, there's so much put into it that it has to come at a price. So that is the only limiting factor. Otherwise, if you have a body, you do Pilates, it'll benefit you. I love working with the elite athlete, training for the Olympics, for example. I love working with the recreational athlete that runs their bikes after work or during the weekends, or those that are trying to age well and play with their grandkids and have the best quality of life for as long as they possibly can. That's really the goal. And all that to be said, all of this precision that I do try to bring and science and education, the whole point is to have joy and enjoy what we're doing and have fun so that we're silly in the studio. It's fun. It's fun. The community is really welcoming. I think that you bring in the energy that you put out. So I hope that that's because I am welcoming. You know, you hope that. I have the youngest client we have is 11.
Wow.
And the oldest client is, I'm going to say 82. I believe she's 82. So that's a broad range. Now, currently it is dominated by females, which is unfortunate because Joseph Pilates was a man, like a manly man. Yeah. He works with soldiers and boxers and trapeze artists. And so it shouldn't be deemed feminine. It's for strength, and it's for cross training, and it benefits every activity you want to do. Again, from the elite athlete to the casual gardener. And I try to portray that so that it's not felt, there's not that barrier, the perceived barrier. Though, I can't remember, I'm circling back to bringing in the more Pilates studios. So the basis of Pilates is that it's in a smaller group. So in my studio, it's the class size is 4 to 6 people. And the reason for that is because the precision of movement takes your eyes. You need to be able to assess the client through the movement before you're ready to move on to the next. And if you have more than that, it can be very challenging, especially if the clients maybe aren't as educated in Pilates movement. So, and then also there's tactile cueing. So if you're asking someone to put their shoulders back and down, you can tell them all day long to squeeze a pencil between your shoulder blades, which you both did, right? But if I take my fingers and I push them right into the base of your shoulder blades, then you're all of a sudden you're like, oh, right there. Well, by the time I got to the other, there was a larger number. I may not be able, it's not realistic.
So you're trying to make sure everybody's safe and getting
Safe
proper instruction.
And getting, yes, exactly, quality instruction. And I think that you can get great Pilates on a larger scale, but there's got to be a way to do it that there's a foundation built first so you get the best quality out of what you're doing, because we all have limited time and we want to get the most out of that time we're putting in. So that's my opinion. That's an opinion only.
Yeah.
But
That's what we like to hear.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So if you are a beginner, your studio would be an ideal location because you're going to get that more individualized care because of the smaller classes.
right.
And are they all group classes, or do you ever do like? It's not like a. Forgive me, I've not done Pilates myself. I've always.
This is a great.
Yeah, I know.
This is a great
I'm
interview
like,
for you.
I'm very interested. I've always been intimidated. I'll be honest. Okay, I'm like, whew, I don't know if I can do that, But
Remember, everything is Instagram.
I'm sure.
Everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But so it's not like a workout studio where you could just go in and work out on your own. It's more group classes.
Well, so the way I've designed it, and it's a common design for the smaller studios like mine, that you are recommended taking 1 to 2 privates before you enter a group setting. And I set it up especially to entice clients to 2. So I have a new client package. You buy one, get one. So you get a free private and buy one only. And that at least gives you 2 opportunities for my eyes to be on your body and see what it needs, what cues it needs, what you get to we get to talk and discuss what your goals are, what movement, what challenges you've had, what maybe there's been a surgery in the past, maybe there is incontinence. We need to talk about pelvic floor health, and which is really great to have the community of functional medicine to rely on, because that goes beyond my expertise. But I can help build those muscles and target that area. So that is the best road, again, in my education experience, is to have those one-on-one options. And you can continue that for however long you need to, but the goal is always to move into the group setting because there's a community involved with that. There's the energy of other folks, and also there's more variety of times because you're not dependent on my time.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is the limit.
That.
I love that too. Like the aspect of community, like, is really big for us at the shop. And with this, community is everything. We would literally not be here. Everybody saved us in the tornado, but having that foundation of bio-individuality and seeing each person as, an individual, unique part of the community. Like you can't have a healthy community without healthy individuals. So
Right.
Oh,
that's
so
really
true.
cool.
That's so true.
It's really cool.
Well
I love
said.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
It's
and
amazing.
it's cool. You're not just going to be thrown to the wolves.
Yeah.
Like, figure it out, like you actually
Have
are going to
that
have a little
support.
bit of insight training. So your first group class, you're not going to feel like, oh, I'm new, I don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly.
That's really comforting to somebody who would feel nervous, like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I've done 2 private lessons. I got this.
I got that. I understand, and it's true. It is. It does have enough of a technique. And I have one of my clients is a nurse, and she calls it prescriptive Pilates because there's often folks that come that have already had knee replacement surgery, hip replacement surgery, or rotator cuff surgery, or they're trying to prevent the surgery from happening. So we need to talk about specific moves they can do, and then they have that tool, those tools or that knowledge when they go into the class, so they're more prepared to take a more ambiguous or blanket cue and adapt it to themselves. So it also requires personal responsibility, because we all have to take that, but with that tool in mind, you go and you're like, okay, I can do this. Because Pilates is intimidating, especially how it's portrayed on social media.
Right.
With some of the
With the tools
huge,
and the equipment, like what does that look like? Are you always using the
there's a reformer. I think that's what you're trying to say. Yeah.
The wooden thing,
yes.
you know?
Slidey thing.
Yeah, it looks
slidey
like
thing.
I would heard
It has a name.
Okay. So that is
the quintessential
Okay.
Pilates equipment or apparatus, it's called, and it is in pretty much any studio that can have it. It's going to have it, and as many of them as they can have, because it tends to become clients' favorite piece of equipment. But we have it's called a Cadillac. It does resemble a medieval torture device in some ways. But
And there's the root of the intimidation in Pilates.
yeah, exactly. And I don't torture anyone on it unless they want me to.
Push a little further.
If we're gonna go to your edge, what's your edge? We'll put you on that. No, so there's that, and then there's a deceptively kind sounding piece of machinery called a chair, which is not relaxing. It's not something you take a break on. It's quite a bit of work, and by nature of the fact that it's smaller surface area, you have to hold more of your body, whereas the reformer has a bigger surface area and it holds more of your body weight. That's just physics at that point. But those are the three primary pieces of equipment. There is something I have that I don't believe I don't think anyone else but Katie that works out, Julie, learned it with me or from me, is it's called an OOV. It's OOV, which is an acronym, and it looks like an odd. In a training with only women, there are many ways that the perception can go, but it's made to shape your S-curves of your spine, and you lay on it, and we deal with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, which is a lot of the part of Pilates that gets kind of shoved to the side. There's the movement aspect and the physical aspect, but there's also the connection between mind and body. And one of the best examples I can use is many of my clients are, many women are in high demand, high intensity stress jobs, and then they go home to be moms or spouses or extended family to other people, which is women's lot. And so there's that transition time. They get to come to the studio, take a class, and not because it's so hard, but because it draws you into your own body. You forget your to-do list. You forget all the meetings that you had that day, and they get a transition and kind of a clean slate to be what they need to be the rest of the evening, or just go and have a glass of wine or whatever and chill.
Very cool.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Because it does focus you so much on your body and brings awareness to how you move, and then you're more aware of how you breathe. And it has a cascade of effects, positive, as far as I have been given feedback and I've experienced myself. So
almost meditative.
Yeah.
Wow.
it does help too, because you get to contrast belly breathing, which we are starting to understand is quite effective in decreasing our stress and bringing us into a better state of mind, which has a whole nervous system aspect, which we don't need to talk about. But then also I lost my train of thought talking about that meditative state. I was going right into my brain.
Meditate, let's do this.
But yes, exactly. It brings you, it contrasts with the breath technique, because there is core, which isn't just our abdominals, which is a misconception. It's our entire trunk of our body, back and front, and many other muscles in between. But our abdominals are focused on, and if we're belly breathing, our abdominals are turning on and off, or elastic. So there's a lot of, it has some complexity that warrants the private one-on-one, just to get some of that. Your brain feels like it's full, but then it comes along, and you've heard it now, and you're like, okay, I get that in class, and you start to have your light bulb or aha moments, and they're really satisfying.
Very
cool.
cool. I love it.
So, tell me, are you doing anything for the community? Is there a way that people can reach out to you, or if they want to try a class? Like, what kind of things do you have going on? Is it just mostly like call and find a private lesson, or is there any
Website, social media?
Right. So we have a website. It's connectionpilates.life, which never really caught on when I first started it. A life was supposed to be the last
lifestyle?
instead of .com.
Yes.
It was supposed to be like the wellness, health and wellness space. So I do it, but I don't know that anyone else. So it's .life, and on the website it has the new client specials. There's one for the 2 privates. There's also one to do 1 private and a class. And then we are on Class Pass, which is a kind of a Groupon type thing for fitness, where you can try a few different studios, and it's probably the most economical way to come in and try it, but it bypasses that private, which puts you into a really
So you better know what you're doing.
a potentially intimidating situation. I try to keep it as welcoming as possible, but when the torture device is sitting there looking at you, it's hard to look past that. But that is an option. I do think that is really the challenge for Pilates. Is it, in order to get the most out of it, you need that one-on-one attention initially, and that is just, it is expensive.
Yeah.
It is a challenge. But once you've made that investment, I guess you decide, what's your wellness worth, and you decide where do you want to put that, because it's time, in my opinion, is more expensive than anything else.
Yeah.
And valuable.
Yes.
Yes.
And your time on this earth is valuable and should not be, you know. So do you do classes every day of the week?
So we have classes available Monday through Saturday. Sunday, the studio is closed. I call it a family day. Otherwise, my instructors will just go, and I kind of have to
Force it
lay
down.
down the law and say, hey, take some time and just be.
That's awesome.
Just be.
And multiple times during the day? Do you have morning, evening?
Yeah, there are morning and there evening. The Saturday is only available in the morning because not many people come to work out on Saturday evenings. Although I have become more open to offering bachelorette parties in the evenings, or girls' nights, that kind of thing. So you can have food and drinks brought in, and then you can have a class taught, so some movement along with your visiting and your celebration. So that is an option as well. I haven't developed that on the website formally, but you can do that. And I also I specialize in equestrian Pilates, so I go to Barnes and I'll teach mat Pilates essentially at Barnes. I was actually up here, not this morning, out near the airport
today.
So yeah, I did a lot of driving today.
Driving today.
Yeah.
And then I teach stand-up paddleboarding Pilates. So out on Beaver Lake, and it's again mat Pilates,
I was
but
just
it's on.
talking about how I would love to do a paddleboard class. That's really neat.
Paddleboarding is a lot of fun, and not a lot of the ladies stand up. You obviously can, and I'll teach you how to do that should you want to. But the Pilates portion is laying down. However, the better you get, the more option you get to do Pilates, the better at standing on the paddleboard you'll be.
I don't
which is the whole
think people
premise.
realize how much of a real core balance workout paddleboarding is.
It is.
It's a
It's
lot of
great
fun,
because
but-
it's not as low impact.
Yes.
Unless you smack into the water.
Yeah.
Even then, you're pretty safe.
So do you have a lot of equestrian athletes that work with you, or is it you're very specialized? I mean, that's really neat.
Well, by a lot, I would say a third of the clientele that comes to the studio are riders in some format, whether they're competitive or they do it as a hobby, we all do it as a hobby, really expensive hobby, or a more casual hobby. But that would probably account for about a third of the clients. I do go to Barnes and I'll offer the movement related to the sport. And it's not just equestrian, it's just what I happen to specialize in. But any athlete, we can help emphasize or de-emphasize what they already emphasize in their training. And the other the rest of the body that kind of gets neglected to make it really black and white. It's more gray than that, but yeah, so there's several equestrians that come, and as Northwest Arkansas grows, more equestrians are moving to the area, and more appreciation for the need to be able to sit on the horse and realize that you're an athlete, not just your animal, that and you're not a sack of potatoes that they're carrying around, which came to light more some of the nuances of riding in the Olympics. And there were some, I don't know if you heard about it, there was some scandals about different trainers and how they were treating their horses and whether horses should even be allowed in the Olympics. And so not that Pilates addresses those exact issues, but it is, I mean, better for your horse if you're better, you're fit. They're carrying you around.
Work
Right?
together.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a team sport.
Yeah. We're on the team, guys.
Exactly. Are there any other tips or tricks or any
Anything
words
you can
of
share
wisdom
with the
to share with
anything
listeners?
that we could learn?
Well, one thing that I really feel like as we're learning about longevity and how to maintain or increase our longevity, and I would consider longevity when we have a quality of life as we're moving through our world, menopause has become such a big topic, and also muscle retention, not just building muscle, but keeping the muscle you have, that whether or not you do Pilates or you lift weights, that you do move. And something that we do a lot in our world is sit. And so when you're seated at your desk or even in your car, you could do it. And I don't want to be equated to grounding. I'm not talking about the electrical field of the earth for this, but you're seated with both feet flat and your sit bones down, and you're, I know, I have such good taste. Because they're squishy comfy. They're squishy comfy. I mean, it's just squishy. I don't have any other word for it. So you're going to press your feet into the floor, and when you do that, you're going to notice the back of your leg. It's called your posterior chain. So the hamstrings or the back of the thighs and your glutes or your butt muscles, your hiney, are going to engage, and then you're going to release. And then you're going to press, feet into the ground, whether you have shoes on or not. Either are options, and then release. And that just, it refocuses the body.
You should have done this at first.
Yeah. Next time. And I will be totally honest, I did not learn this all that long ago, and it did not originate from me, but I'm going to pass it along. And I was doing it, I was at the computer because, I don't always get to do Pilates. And this is me at the computer sometimes, I'll be totally honest. And I'll reset, and I'll sit up tall. I'll make sure my sit bones are really firm in my chair, and I'll do that. I'll just press maybe 5 times, and then I'll go on with my work, and then I'll do it again. And you'll notice that you go up a little bit, and you probably won't go back to slouching as quickly.
Love it.
Just a little.
That's good. Yeah, no.
Really.
A little longer.
Yeah, that was a good tip.
Yeah. Well, really good tip.
Thank you.
I'm going to use that one because I do a lot of computer work, and and I'm definitely like victim of
Well, and we know we should get up and walk down the hallway, and we should do this and we should do that. Well, we get in a zone. Well, every one of us gets in a zone, or you're like, let me just finish this so I can just be done. Well, you can do this and not necessarily lose your zone, but recalibrate your body just a little bit. So little tidbit of functional movement.
That was super functional. I love it. So to remind us, do you have social media that people can follow?
So Connection Pilates and Fitness on Instagram and Facebook. I have no idea how to do TikTok, so no, I'm not on that. I am a Gen Xer.
There we go.
All the way.
Well, that's great. We'll definitely make sure that everybody knows how they can find you and how they can reach out.
That would be great. I am so glad I got to come on here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, this was
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.